Alright, so I came across an article today that I found to be very relatable personally, and I think a lot of you are going to find this very, very relatable as well. Gen Z has just totally lost faith in America at this point. Now, none of this is new, none of this should come as a surprise at this point. We all know about these problems and talk about it literally every day here on this channel. But what is new, and a bit surprising even to me, was the sheer size and scale of just how bad and how apocalyptic things have gotten. So apparently 57% of Gen Z think the country is headed in the wrong direction. And get this, just 13% think we're headed in the right direction. And honestly, I wonder who are these 13% even? I mean, they either have to be out-of-touch rich kids or just totally delusional copers at this point. I really don't know. But here's where it gets really crazy, all right? By the numbers, a majority of respondents, 57%, okay, say the country is headed in the wrong direction, which is a 6-point rise from last year and 1 point down from the record high notched in the spring of 2024. Young adults are far more worried about the country's future now than they were even during the depths of the Great Recession in 2009 when the economy was truly cooked. So at that time, only 37% of respondents said the US was on the wrong track, 20 points less than this year. This survey of 2,040 18 to 29-year-olds took place in early November. 20 points higher than 2009 is absolutely nuts. Like, I'm a millennial who just became an adult around that time, and I remember the sheer economic trauma of that era like it was yesterday. I mean, you had people in suits with master's degrees lining up to apply at McDonald's. You had to apply 700 times just to get a single interview. Things were already really bad back then. So it's crazy to see that young people are literally 20 points even more hopeless now than they were back then. But if you think about it for just a second, it's really not all that surprising because as bad as it was back then, there was still hope that things could turn around. We had just elected the electrifying President Obama, who he gave us a serious beacon of hope and change. And we at least had the hope that as bad as things were, one day things were going to get better, which kind of kept us going even in the darkest of times. Now, it wasn't about 2014 or so, midway through Obama's second term, when I realized that things weren't going to get better. Just never again. I mean, this wasn't through any fault of his own necessarily. I still think he was a pretty decent president who did what he could with what he found, but the problems with the system, I mean, they just run so deep, it's just way too much for any one person or president to fix it. So it was at that moment when I realized it doesn't really matter who the next president is or what party he's from. It's all a stupid game to divide us and keep us going back and forth between two equally bad options, and nothing ultimately changes at the end of the day. And while it appears now that Gen Z has now reached the exact same conclusion just a year into the second Trump term. So, young adults are fed up with politics too, according to the article. And while 46% said they'd rather have Democrats control Congress, Gen Z holds deeply negative views of both parties, according to the report. President Trump's approval rating amongst this group is 29% overall, down 2 points from the spring. Between the lines, the rising cost of living has become a political liability for Trump just as it was for his predecessor. Uncertainty about one's future is a core part of being a young adult, and it's perhaps unsurprising that a feeling of instability would be surging at a time of rapid change in technology and politics. Now, I want to really emphasize that this isn't meant to be a political video. Things have definitely been horrible under Trump, but they were already bad under Biden, which is why Trump even got elected in the first place. And this is another reason the hopelessness makes sense. There's no hope anymore that if the next guy wins, or the next guy, or the next guy, he's going to be the one savior that gets us out of this and brings us back to the glory days. Now, one particular topic I also wanted to address is the issue of AI. From the same article, it says, zoom in, AI is now creating economic anxiety for this generation. 59% see AI as a threat to their job prospects, more than immigration or outsourcing jobs to other countries. Majorities of both parties are threatened. Zoom out. Economic worry is the new unifier amongst young adults, says Kritika Nagapa, a Harvard senior who worked on the AI and economy pieces of the survey. You can't really lie to young people about the economy, especially when they're just trying to get by. Now, I'll admit that I was a huge techno-optimist when I first heard about AI and started using the technology. The whole narrative was that yes, it's going to take jobs, but that's kind of the whole point. I mean, it was supposed to free us from the shackles of work, give us universal basic income, and allow us to finally pursue our dreams, hobbies, and passions. But at this point, to no one's surprise, it's been a complete 180 betrayal from AI companies. All they are doing is accelerating as fast as they can, destroying the environment, taking away jobs, and all of a sudden, there's been no talks, no momentum, no discourse about the universal basic income we were supposed to get. Now, there is just a bit of hope on the horizon here. Pro-UBI candidate Andrew Yang is back in the news and making rounds as his 2018 predictions about AI and the need to implement UBI have aged like the best fine wine at this point. And the same media who mocked him as an alarmist are now admitting he was right all along. I mean, not that they even have a choice at this point. I still think that we can regulate and control AI to where this technology is indeed used to benefit all of us the way it should be and the way it was promised to be, but it's going to require voting in a lot of candidates like Andrew Yang who really understand the issue and are actually committed to solving it. Big tech companies aren't just going to give it to us at this point, and that much is clear. That being said, I think it's also going to get to a point where it becomes totally necessary, as unless the government and corporations want total riots, coups, chaos, anarchy, and revolution, it's going to be inevitable. I mean, you see this already happening with Gen Z in many countries around the world, which we've covered in many videos. And honestly, you're just very incredibly naive if you think it couldn't happen in America too. By the way, Rome actually implemented the closest thing we've ever tried to a UBI thousands of years ago to quell the mass hunger riots it was facing at the time. And it worked incredibly well. We're making an entire video dedicated to that is coming out sometime next week, so be on the lookout for that. Anyways, there is a bit of hope and a bit of a silver lining when it comes to that. There are certain UBI programs which are already being rolled out in certain counties and in some cases even being made permanent, and the early results seem pretty promising. But here's perhaps the most ominous thing of it all. For the first time, the Harvard poll asked young adults whether political violence is ever acceptable. 39%, guys, said it is. At least in under one circumstance. Now, it's unclear if this is unusually high. It's something that will need to be tracked over time. This is crazy and stunning to me. I personally don't condone violence, but this should be a wake-up call to all of us that we better start working on solutions, and fast. Now, something that was surprising even to me was that it seems Gen Z women actually want to leave even more than Gen Z men right now, according to a recent survey by US analytics firm Gallup, which suggests 40% of American women aged 15 to 44 would move abroad if they had the opportunity. These figures reflect aspirations rather than intentions, but they appear to highlight a trend that Gallup says began more than a decade ago. A growing number of young American women reassessing where they see their futures. This rise has also created the largest gender gap in migration aspirations that Gallup has ever recorded, with only 19% of younger men saying they want to leave the US. And it turns out there is some potential light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to leaving, which might just be the only solution at this point. According to the same article, Caitlin, 31, who moved from the US to Portugal 4 years ago, says there wasn't one big reason why she decided to move abroad, but she felt compelled to ditch her day job to explore a new life somewhere else. I was working a 9-to-5 in Los Angeles, and every day felt exactly the same. There's not a strong work-life balance in the US. I wanted to live somewhere with a different pace, different cultures, and learn a new language. She now lives in Lisbon, works remotely as a freelancer, and says the lower cost of living and strong social culture have made her feel more like a whole person again. I can't imagine ever going back to the US, she says. Now, I want to give my own perspective on this as an American citizen who left over a decade ago. There is only two real ways you can save yourself at this point and potentially get to a better future for yourself personally. There's option one, which is to stay and fight and try to make things better. And here's what I'll say about that. If you really love America that much and you think you have the power to change things, go for it. You're a much smarter, much more talented person than me, and there's probably nothing I can tell you or no advice I could give you if that's you. It requires just an incredibly talented and ambitious person to be able to literally change the system from the inside out. I wasn't smart enough or talented enough to do that. Most people aren't. But if you believe you can, hey, don't let me discourage you. More power to you. But for the overwhelming majority of us who don't have the ambition or talent to become a politician, a major influencer, or someone who can actually change the entire system, moving abroad and leaving is probably your best bet at this point. Now, don't get me wrong. I know it's not easy for everyone. I'm not here to tell you to move abroad. What I am telling you is that if you're already considering it, it's not a bad option at this point. Moving abroad isn't a magic silver bullet solution that will solve all your problems, but that doesn't mean it can't make meaningful improvements in your quality of life, and after all, that's what we're all after. Now, you'll always get people trying to gaslight you by saying, the grass is always greener on the other side, that the whole world is screwed at this point and you can't escape no matter where you go. And my response to this as someone who successfully moved abroad is that this is a total crabs in a bucket mindset. The people who tell you this are miserable, and misery loves company. There are many places you can move to abroad with significantly lower cost of living, better healthcare, better food, better quality of life, better work-life balance, walkable cities, better infrastructures where you don't need a car, etc. Not only is America not number one when it comes to this, it's probably one of the worst amongst all developed countries. And these are all verifiable facts with statistical evidence, by the way. It's not just my personal opinion. And sure, it's not going to solve all your problems, and you'll face many new challenges in your new home overseas as well. Believe me, I know. Learning a new language, making new friends, missing your friends and family back home. And God knows visa applications were the literal bane of my existence for years. But I never understood this mentality that we shouldn't strive for something better just because it's not perfect. It's as the saying goes, the enemy of the perfect is the good, or in this case, the enemy of the perfect is the better. To be clear, once again, I'm not telling you to move. It's not even my place to tell you that. That's a personal choice that you have to make. What I am telling you, however, is that if you want to move, if you think it'll make your life better, don't let these crabs in a bucket people hold you back and gaslight you by telling you it won't be perfect in other countries either. It isn't, and that was never the point. The point was to always gradually improve your life step by step and eventually get to a better place. Not a perfect place, but a better place. So yeah, guys, that's my 2 cents on the situation going on in America right now. I know today was a bit more of an easygoing, chill reaction type of video. I do have 2 absolute high production bangers that I'm currently catching up on, and those will be out next week, so be on the lookout for that. Also, thank you guys so much for 40,000 subscribers. We're getting kind of close to 50K now. We're trying to get there by the end of the year, so if you're new here and you enjoyed this video, definitely consider subscribing and helping us potentially get there. Would really appreciate it. Now, beyond moving out or staying and fighting to change the system, there is one other solution known as anti-consumption, which will quite literally help you wherever you go in this economy. And we talk about it more in the last video we made right here. Check it out. I'll see you there. Thanks for watching.